Okay, cool. Welcome back. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers, and today we're going down the Pentest Plus pathway with Windows Local Persistence, and this is a subscriber-only room, which means that only subscribers or paid subscribers can get access to it, and you would and you can get access. It's only $12 to actually get it. If you use the link in the description, it shaves $5 off of it, so it becomes $7, and you basically have your subscriber membership with TryHackme, or they call it a VIP membership with TryHackme. If you don't want to do that, if you want to just follow along in your own machine, you're more than welcome to. We drop a video at least once a day, and we are covering the SOC, Security Operations Center pathway, as well as the Pentest Plus pathway. So if you just like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell, then you'll get notified the next time a video comes out. And that way you can just follow along in our paths as we go about our hacking activities, or hacktivities as they call it. So the introduction of the room is fairly simple. Persistence essentially means that once you've gained access to a system, you want to stay on it so that you don't lose access to it. And you can do this in a lot of different ways, but the name of the overall concept is called persistence, establishing persistence. And so re-exploitation isn't always possible. You get it once, and they may patch the systems and they may patch their vulnerabilities, and you don't get it again. Gaining a foothold is really hard to produce. So if you use a phishing campaign and repeat it again to get access to a host, is simply just too much work, especially if the employee or whoever the person was, it becomes wise to it. So all of that put aside, now you're on the radar of the defensive team, of the blue team, and now they're after you and they're keeping their eye out on you. So it's very important that once you gain access to a system and once you exploit the system, the first time that you do, you maintain persistence of the system. That's the whole idea here, and that's the purpose behind this entire room that we're going through. A really good foundation to kind of diving into this room would be to do Windows Fundamentals 1 and 2, and I believe I have done both of those things, so I can feel pretty secure about moving forward with this particular room. And yes, I have done both of those things. So that is basically the introduction of the room. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the first official task, which is tampering with unprivileged accounts. All right, so this particular section and the rest of the room really requires a virtual machine. I've already started it just to kind of give us a heads up, or an initial what is it? Headway, I guess, kind of put us ahead of the game. I don't know what the phrase is. I'm kind of drawing a blank on the phrase. When you log into it, there's a few different things that you can do. So obviously they've given us administrator access, but there are things that you can do to give somebody who isn't an administrator access to the administrator group. And so one of them is assigning group memberships. The other one is putting them as the backup operator to a group. And then if you do that, you need to also update the remote management, which is Windows RM. You need to update that as well. And I'm going to show you exactly how these commands look and what they work. But then once you we're assuming that you've already dumped the credentials and you actually have access to the password of this person. So if you use the attack box to log into the system, we'll see that we don't have access to everything, and the stuff that we thought we were going to get access to, we won't. So in order to be able to do that, we need to implement what is called the local account token filter policy, or that's one of the things that we need to address. And it's essentially, it strips any local account of its administrative privileges when logging in remotely. And that's the big thing, is that when we give ourselves administrator privileges during these commands right here, but if we're going to use the attack box to log into the Windows machine, that's a remote access, so therefore it removes all of the administrative privileges. And so you can elevate the privileges using UIC, but if you're defined to limited access with no administrative privileges when you're outside of it. So to be able to regain administrative privileges, you have to disable local account token policy, by changing the following registry key to 1, and this is the full command to do it. And then once all of that has been set up, you're ready to do the backdoor again, and then you connect, and hopefully you actually are able to get access to everything this time around. So that's kind of the whole idea here. And so once you get access to the remote system, you can download the SAM and system files, which are very crucial to be able to maintain the persistence and to actually be able to do all the things that you want to do. And then with those files, you can dump the password hashes for all of the users using secrets dump Python file or a lot of similar tools. And then you pass the hash and you connect to the victim machine, and you have administrator privileges. And so once you're in the administrator console using THM-user1, you can execute this to gain the first flag, and we can just move on to the next exercise after that. So first and foremost, we're going to do this part of the exercise and do this whole thing so that we can gain that flag. So assigning group memberships. Now this is the Windows machine. You can tell from just how large the icons are that this is like freaking an ancient machine. I did forget to start the attack box, so I got to start the attack box as well. And we're going to do a few things as the attack box is loading. So the first thing that I want to do is the first initial set of commands that it's asking us to do. So we're going to have to open up command prompt real quick. And that is done using cmd.exe. You can always search for command prompt as well, and it'll just show up. But I like searching, or I meant browse for it, excuse me. You can always browse for it, but I like searching for it. And so the command is basically this, right? Net local group administrators, THM user 0 add. Whoops, user 0 add. That's it, right? So we're adding users THM user 0 to the administrators group, and that's it. And so the specified group does not exist. I misspelled administrators. Local group administrators, THM user 0 add. There you go. That's great. So we added the user successfully, and now what we need to do is add. So this is one thing. This is for one user. The user that we're actually going to be using for our remote execution is THM user 1, I believe. Let me just make sure. Yeah, it is THM user 1. So since we want to do that, we just want to add them to the backup operators, and then update the remote management users group as well. So it's simple, very similar command. So it's net local group backup operators THM user 1 add, and now they're in the backup operators, and then same thing, net local group remote management users, and that is going to be THM user 1 add. And just like that, they're added to both of these things. But this doesn't mean that they're going to be able to actually log in, right? So once this thing kind of sets up, it's taking its sweet little time. We're going to run the evil winrm command through it, and this is kind of where we're at. So we're a little bit ahead right here. So we're going to be in this situation. So after we've done that, we're going to run evil winrm, and then it should give us a shell into the system using THM user 1. And then when you do who am I groups, it'll say the groups that you actually belong to, and specifically it says if you try to connect, you'd be surprised that even if you are on the backup operators group, you won't be able to access all files as expected. A quick check on your assigned groups would indicate that we're a part of the backup operators, but the group is disabled. So if we looked at the group backup operators, oh, there you go, and the machine is finally loaded. So where is the backup operators group? Right here. Do you see it? Oh, there we go. So backup operators is actually here, and then it says group used for deny only, which is odd. Alias, all that stuff is just not available, right? So everything else is enabled by default, enabled group, so on and so forth, but this is denied. So that's the single group, the one group that is denied. So since that is the unfortunate case, we are going to run the, and I want to show you because I don't want to leave anything out in this particular case. So I'm going to run the evil winrm command right here. And then from that, we should be able to at least be able to check that. So winrm, so Windows Remote, and then we're 10.10.115.219 is going to be our machine, and it's tmuser1 with the password of password321. And so there it is. So Windows evil winrm, excuse me, and we have a PowerShell session. That's what the PS right here implies. And so users thm1, thm user 1, I mean, and so there you go. This is basically it, right? So since we're here, we could just do who am I and check the groups that we're involved in, and it tells us right here, right? Backup operators, group used for deny only, so that we don't have access to it remotely. So the thing that we have to do now is we have to actually go and run another command, and I'm going to try to see if I can copy and paste this into the command prompt in the Windows machine. Typically it doesn't let me do this. Oh, it does. Okay, great. So that's basically it, right? So we're adding this person into we'll have to disable, we're disabling the local account token filter policy by changing the registry key to 1. And this is what this last thing does right here. So registry add, this is the thing that we're doing. So to the system, we're adding the word for local account token filter policy to 1. And so once we do this, the operation completed successfully. And so ideally, when we go back to backup operators, we should have enabled by default as a command. So if I go back here, and if I think I can do Control C to exit. Yes, we're going to exit. Very good. And so I'm going to run that command one more time, which is basically the same exact command, the evil winrm connection. I'm going to run it. It takes it right here. And then so who am I? And do groups. And we should have backup operators. And it says mandatory group right here. Backup operators, mandatory group enabled by default, enabled group, right? So it's it's fairly simple if you just know the commands to run, and that's why we're doing this particular exercise. So this command right here, you don't have to memorize it, but you need to make note of it if you want to do this for any kind of a penetration test, so on and so forth. So now that we have access to this particular machine, what we can do is we can back up the SAM and system files, right? So this is the next step right here. That's telling us to do right here. So when we then proceed to make a backup of SAM and system files and download them to the attacker machine. And so we do that by running a few very simple commands, right? The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to change to the root directory, and then we're going to do reg save hklm, and it's system, and then we're going to do system back to create a backup file. And that should take hopefully not too long. There you go. And then now we're going to do same thing, but we're going to do it for the SAM file, and we're going to do sam.back. And there's that too. And so both of them should be fine. And since we are in the attack box right now, if we use the download system back command, it should just download it. Okay, and here we go. It's almost done. Perfect. And so we're going to run the same thing, download sam.back, and that one should be a little bit quicker. Excellent. And so we got that going, and now the next step is for us to be able to, with those files, we can just dump the password hashes using something called the secrets dump Python file. And the secrets dump Python file is inside the, it's from impacket. I think it's called impacket or impacket. I don't know how you pronounce that specifically, but this is the command that we're going to run for it, right? So I don't need to change the IP address or anything, so I'm just going to copy paste this for the interest of time. And so it is a Python file, but what we need to make sure that we do is we need to make sure that we do it in a new shell, in a new terminal, so that we're actually running it as our Linux machine, not the PowerShell window that's over there. So we're going to run this, and it should do perfectly fine. And okay, there you go. It did work great. I almost was worried because I didn't realize where the file was saved, but thankfully it was actually saved where it is currently in the directory that we're in right now. And so there we go. We got all of the hashes for everybody, including the administrator. So this is the administrator hash right here, right? So it's everything from these two A's all the way to this FA right here. So this entire section, without the last set of colons, that whole thing is the administrator hash for their password. So now we can just do a pass the hash attack, which is essentially using the hash as the password instead of the password for the administrator, right? So in this situation, they did, I guess it's actually not even that whole thing. I think it's this piece right here. So they've used from the 1C all the way to the AA3. And so for us, we're just going to do the same thing. So we're going to go from the colon right here in the middle and take this section right here, and that's going to be our hash. So hopefully it'll work. So we're going to come back down here, and I'm going to copy this piece right here from the middle colon all the way to the very last one, and we're going to copy that. That's going to be our hash. And from here, we're going to run evil winrm one more time, but now we're going to do it on the administrator user. So same IP and everything. So 10.10.115.219. They use administrator. And let me make sure I spelled that correctly. And the hash. So the last time that we did it, we did P for password. But this time we're doing H for hash. And then we're going to run that. And we got administrator password. So now we can just go to CD, the root, and there should be a flags file right here, or flags directory, and there it is right there. So we're going to go into CD flags, and then we're going to do another thing right there, and look at all these flags right here. So the one that we want right now is flag1. So you just do type flag1.exe, or no, you know what? I don't even have to do that. I just, because it's an executable file, I just do flag1.exe. Okay, so I guess it doesn't execute that way. So what I need to do is actually execute it the way that they said. And we're going to run it like this. So flags flag1.exe. If we run it like that, there you go. It'll actually execute. It's kind of odd that it doesn't execute when you just do it by itself. But anyway, so THM flag backed up, and that is the flag for the first one right here. So insert flag1 right here. What I'm curious about is if I just run the flag2 exe, will it not run or something? Is that what? So let's see if we just ran it since we're here. Flag2.exe, would that not work? Oh, you're still missing something. No flag for you yet. Ha. Okay, fine. Alright, so we're gonna go back to this piece right here, which is for special privileges and security descriptors. So there is, we kind of messed with this in our Windows privilege escalation video, which was the previous video that we did for the pentest pathway. And we were messing with this inside a shell that we had. It was like a remote shell that was inside a web browser. And that was what the whole thing was. So now we're going to do it inside the actual machine itself. It seems like we're going to be using just some of the net configurations as well as the command line prompts. So we can assign privileges to any user. To do so, we can use the secedit command. First, we will export the current configuration to a temporary file. So secedit export config into a file. And this, I'm guessing, is done inside the Windows machine. And then we open the file and add our user to the lines in the configuration regarding backup privilege and restore privilege. So right here, we would add THM user 2, and then there's one down here for restore privilege, and we would add that at THM. And that's basically, you do a comma at the end, and then you add the user at the end of it. And then we convert the .inf file into a .sdb file, which is then used to load the configuration back into the system. So import it into this, and then configure it and put it into that. And there you go. And so you should now have a user with equivalent privileges to any backup operator. The user still can't log into the system with RM, so let's do something about it. Instead of adding the user to the remote group, we are going to change the security descriptor associated to allow THM user 2 to connect. Think of security descriptor as an ACL, so access control list, but applied to the other system facilities. To open the configuration window for WinRM security descriptor, you can use the following command in PowerShell, and this is a GUI session, so graphic user interface. So we are going to execute the command, and then I guess it's going to open it up in the UI. I'm not sure if this ends up opening the UI for us. Yeah, it does. So it's going to open a window where you can add user 2 and assign it to privileges, assign it full privileges to connect, and that's what it's going to look like. You click on it, you click add, and you give it full control. And then once you've done this, you can now connect with WinRM. Since the user has backup and restore privileges, we can repeat the steps to recover the password hashes from the SAM and connect back to administrator. Notice that for this user to work with the given privileges fully, you'd have to change the local account filter policy registry key, but we've done this already to get the previous flag. So if you check the group memberships, it will look like a regular user, nothing suspicious at all. Once again, we'll assume we have already dumped the credentials on the server and we have their passwords. So let's connect with their password, and we can get this using the credentials that's on the flags folder, right? So what we have to do is we need to create the what was it again? The SAM password. So we're gonna recover the password hashes from SAM and connect back with the administrator user, and then in order for this to work, we have to change the local account token, which we did with that previous command. So we're going to do that again, and I think it should actually work fine now, but we're using THM user 2, so I think we just have to repeat that process in order for it to work properly. So I'm going to start this from the very, very top, and we're gonna kind of go from the very, very beginning. So special privileges and security descriptors. First, we need to run this command inside our Windows machine. So let's run this command. Okay, I guess it didn't save it, so I'll just manually type it. Okay, so that worked fine. And so now what we can do is we can open the file, so config.inf, and I guess where is it? It's in users administrator. So if I open the file explorer here, and there's whip config, so if I go to, where would it be? It would be this PC, local users administrator, and here there should be a config.inf, which is right here. And so the config.inf, we need to find the SE backup privilege, and I think for this I could actually even do can I do like a search or something? Edit, find, there we go, Control F, excellent. So I'm searching for SE backup privilege. There it is. And so at the end of this, we're going to THM user 2. We're going to add that. And then the next one that we're going to do, let me see if I can do Control F to find. Excellent, I can. So the next one that I'm going to do is SE restore privilege. That's the one that we need to also add it to. And that is right here. And so we're gonna add at the end of this line THM user 2, and this should be fine. So we're gonna save this. Cool. And now we're gonna run the following command to turn it into an SDB and configure it again. So sec edit import cfg config.inf, and we're going to do a config.sdb, so database, and that seemed to work fine. So now sec edit configure db config.sdb and configure config.inf, and that should be fine. Okay, great, and that works successfully. So now I wonder if I could let me see if I could copy paste this one more time. Hopefully that'll actually work. Copy. It won't let me paste. Fine. I'll type it manually, I guess. Oh, my bad. I did the whole thing inside of command prompt when I'm supposed to do it inside PowerShell. This is one of the things that I kind of don't like about Microsoft, is that there's command line and then there's a PowerShell, which is like, okay, well, what the hell is the point of this? Okay, so let's try this one more time. Okay, there it goes. I think it worked. All right, excellent. So we are now here, and so what we need to do is we need to add a user, which I guess is THM user 2. Check names, and there he is. We're gonna add him. Click on that, and we're gonna give him full control, and I think that's fine, or I guess I can check this off because that's what the instructions said. So we're just going to follow the instructions. So there you go, that worked. So now that that's done, we can go back here and see what net user THM user 2 looks like. And he is a member of the local group users, and all this stuff seems to be fine. So, okay, so I mean, once we have done this, our user can connect via Windows RM. Since the user has SE backup and restore privileges, we can repeat the steps to recover the password hashes from the SAM and connect back with the administrator user. So notice that for this to work, you have to change the local account filter policy, but we've done this already to get the previous flag. So if you check your user group memberships, it will look like a regular thing. So we'll assume that we've already dumped the credentials on the server. Let's connect using Windows RM. So this is it, and we're going to come back here, and I'll just exit out of this one that's up here. And whoops, Control C, thank you. Yes, great. So evil, is that what it is? Right, it is evil. Evil win RM. Evil win RM. Let me double check and make sure. I don't want to mess this up. There it is. Okay, that is the actual thing. So now instead of doing password, we're going to do Windows user 2. Oh, I think we can use password actually. So password 321, and it should connect, but I wonder if we can actually see this stuff. So who am I? No, that's not even important. So we need to go actually to CD. Not even that actually, because I can just run the flag to see if it worked. So if I run the flag2.exe, it should work, right? There it is. Hey, it worked. It actually worked, you guys. And so that is the command that will give us the flag right here. I'm just a normal user. And so literally we had already downloaded the SAM backup. We've already downloaded the system backup, and we've already dumped the hashes and done all that stuff and changed the thing for, what was that thing that they called it? It was this thing right here. Is this thing, the local account token filter policy. We've already set that to 1. But so just so you know, is that if you didn't already do this, you would need to do this, okay? So if we had skipped that first step, which is this step right here, this thing right here, this whole thing, if we hadn't done this particular part of the exercise, you would need to run this command before you're able to log in using evil Windows RM to be able to retrieve the flag. So this thing, this command specifically applies to essentially every session. So if I had to restart the machine, if I had to restart this Windows machine for whatever reason, I would need to rerun this command in order for any of these exercises to work. So that's very important to kind of note and to keep in mind. And if it happens to you, and for whatever reason the machine crashes and you have to restart the Windows machine, you got to keep that in mind, that you need to reapply that command so that it actually works. So now we're going to move to the third part of this, which is the RID hijacking. So another method is the relative ID hijacking. And this is when a user logs on, the LSAS process gets the RID from Sam and creates an access token associated with that RID. If we can tamper with the registry value, we can make Windows assign an administrator access token to an unprivileged user by associating the same RID to both accounts. So in this particular case, the administrator account is assigned RID 500 and regular users have RID greater than 1,000, right? So that's kind of what you need to know. So when you run this to see what the RIDs are, it'll say administrator is 500, default is 503, guest is 501, and all the other users have anything over 1,000. So what we got to do, we have to assign RID 500 to user 3. And in order to do that, there's something called PsExec that is inside the tools. It's been included for us, but you can download it as well. PsExec 64 specifically, and we're going to use regedit. And then from here, we're going to go to this path, and there's going to be a key for each user, as they said. Since we want to modify THM user 3, we need to search for a key with the RID in hex, which is this crap. Hexadecimal is 1010 because the RID for user 3 is 1010. So we have to first run this command to find out what his RID is, right? Once you find the RID for the user, you convert it to hexadecimal. And when you convert it to hexadecimal, under the corresponding key, there will be a value called F, which holds the user's effective RID at position 030. And so F, and then at 030, the position, this is the RID that needs to be changed. And so since it's stored using little endian notation, its bytes appear reversed, right? So it actually says right here that it's 03F2, right? But over here, it's F203, so it's reversed. So what you need to do is you need to change it to 500, which is 01F4, but it needs to be F401 because it's reversed, right? And when you do that and you click OK, it'll turn them into an administrator RID, and then we can go and retrieve this flag. So simple enough, right? It's a little bit complicated, I'm not gonna lie. This one is a little bit kind of hard to wrap your head around, but I'm breezing. I'm like reading through all the instructions super quickly, so I kind of understand if it feels a little bit overwhelming. So slow this down or repeat the video if you need to, just to kind of figure out what needs to happen. So first, the idea is here is this. First, you need to get the user account and then the name, the SID, which is also known as the RID. You need to get that information first so that you can know what you're searching for to change it, right? So for user 3, in this particular task is user 3, we need to find them by 1010, and then we need to change it according to that one, right? So once we have that information, the first thing that we need to do is we need to go to tools, and there is no ls, I'm so used to ls, and we need to go to ps tools, and then from here we need to run psexec64.exe is regedit, because we need to use regedit, and regedit should just open up for us. It opened up right down here. Okay, there it is. And then from there we need to go to, you can do it here, you can literally go and try to kind of find it by navigating like this, or you could actually just go up here. If you notice, when I click on it, it fills it up right here. So I could just actually fill in the path and it'll take me there. So I'm going from local machine to Sam, there you go, to Sam again, and then domains and account users, and it is so 000F2, this guy, we're going to this one. And so now we are here, and so there is the binary, the registry binary, which is this thing right here. And so what we need to do is, I think we could just double click and open this. There you go. And so if we go to position 30, which is right here, in position 30, we're changing these two, just these two. This and this are the only two that we're changing. And we're changing it from 03F2. So remember, this is backward, right? So we're changing it from 03F2 to 01F4. So I think I could, there you go. F4, there you go. And then I could double click this and do 01. And that's all you got to do. And you just save that. And that should be it. And so this guy should have the access that we need. So now we can just go use WinRM again and use the username and password, which is, what is it? It's the same password for everybody. We're just changing it to user3, using that password, and then that should allow us to access the third flag, right? So boom, evil WinRM. And I don't even need to change the password. I just need to go over here and change to user3. So very, very simple, same command. We're just running the same command each time. And all we're doing is changing the user, and it's gonna log us in. And we should be able to run flag 3 by running that basic C command. So as soon as it logs in, come on, buddy, give it to me. Okay, so here is something very important that I want you to see. And I gotta minimize this whole thing. I didn't want to just minimize that. Where is it? I think now I need to open this up in a full screen so that it's a little bit easier to view and mess with. So here's the thing, right? So first and foremost, if you notice, this particular situation is now an actual Windows remote desktop that's opened up instead of just a shell like this one down here, right? And the reason for that is I was not supposed to use evil WinRM this time. So I got several error messages, and I thought there was something wrong with what I did and how I did it, and it didn't work the first time, the second, or the third time. So I just used a basic RDP command, which is xfree RDP, and then /u thm user3 /p password, so same thing. And then this is just the command for this, and then you do /v and then the IP address of the machine, and then you start it. And then when you start it, it actually starts an actual RDP session for you into the Windows. But what it did was, if you remember, it started up like this. So we're logged in as the administrator. We're not logged in as THM user 3. We're logged in as the admin. And so if that's the case, we should be able to just run the command using this thing right here. So if I just go here and do C, capital C, doesn't matter. So C flags, flag 3, in this particular situation, it should just work. So there you go. Okay, so C flags, flag 3. Hopefully I don't get an error. There you go. Trust me, I'm an admin, and that is the flag. And so it worked, ladies and gentlemen. It indeed worked. And so there we go. We got our RDP, and I'm just going to shrink this back down now since we have it in a new window, in a new browser, in a new tab. And so they did notify us that if we do an RDP right here in this environment, it's going to cancel our original RDP, which it did. So what we need to do is restart it based on the instructions that they gave us. And right here, so it says when you log into your RDP, the existing in-browser view will be disconnected. After you terminate your RDP, you can get the in-browser view back by pressing reconnect, which I already closed the thing. So I'm just gonna close this one and go back here, and let's see if I can just kind of show split view to see if I can get this. It's reconnecting, and there we go. We reconnected. Great. So there you go. We got that. And I'm just going to turn this back into full screen as well, so we can just shrink this out and be done with it. And there it is. Okay, great. Okay, cool. We are done with the first task, which is a pretty big task, really long task. So let's move on to the next one. All right, so the next task is backdooring files, and this one is doesn't seem to be too crazy. There's only two specific tasks. So if you find any executable laying around the desktop, the chances are high that the user might use it frequently because it's on the desktop. So if we want to we find a shortcut to PuTTY lying around. If we check the shortcuts properties, we could see that it usually points to this path, right? So from that point, we could download the executable on the attacker machine and modify it to run any payload that we want. And you can easily plant a payload of your preference in any exe file with MSF Venom. Beautiful. The binary will work as usual, but execute an additional payload silently by adding an extra thread in your binary. To create a backdoored PuTTY, we can use the following command. So this is the MSF Venom command. You should be familiar with this because we did this in the Windows privilege escalation. Not this specific command, but we did use MSF Venom in the last one. And so the resulting PuTTY exe will execute a reverse shell meterpreter without the user noticing it. While this method is good enough to establish persistence, let's look at another sneaky technique. So shortcut files. So if we don't want to alter the executable, we can always tamper with the shortcut file itself. Instead of pointing it directly to the expected use executable, we can change it to point to a script that will run a backdoor and then execute the usual program normally. So for this, we're going to do the calculator on the administrator desktop, and if we right click and go to properties, we'll see where it's pointing. Then before hijacking it, let's create a simple PowerShell script in Windows System 32 or any other sneaky location. The script will execute a reverse shell and then run calc.exe from the original location. So start process, no new window. You don't want the reverse shell to be in a new window because you want it to be sneaky, you want it to be hidden. And so you're going to run the netcat64, and then regularly it's going to send the command to a command line, it's going to send a CMD shell basically to the attack IP, which is our attack box, and then that's it, right? So finally, we'll change the shortcut to point to the script, and you do it as such. So you Windows style hidden, Windows such and such, and that's basically it right here. You put this whole thing right here, and then change the icon, because once you do this, it's actually going to change the icon to PowerShell instead of changing it to calculator or anything like that. So you want to make sure you change the icon back to the actual calculator icon. That part is really important, otherwise it's going to look like it's a different type of executable. And then you go to the netcat listener, or you start a netcat listener, and then after that, once you double click on the calculator, you'll get a connection to the netcat listener, and then that way we're going to get flag number 5. And then there's file association. So if we go to the same place, the registry editor, and we go to the local machine software classes.txt, which is the program ID, and we can search for a subkey also under these classes right here. In this case, it's the txt file, where we can find a reference to the program in charge of handling txt. Most program ID entries will have a subkey under shell open command, and where the default command would be. So right here. So we were under local machine right here, software classes, txt, so txt file, it's just zoomed out. So when you go to txt, it'll show you that the data is txt file, so that's the program ID. So instead of being in .txt, now you can go to txt file and then shell open command, right? So shell open command is literally the shell open command. It's the command that you use to open it via shell, and this is the command. So you change that command, where this represents the name of the opened file. If we want to hijack the session, we would replace the command with a script that executes a backdoor and then opens the file as usual. So then you create a script with the following content, and you save it to backdoor.ps1, and then from here, you in PowerShell, you can pass the argument. So this is an argument to Notepad, And so essentially now it turns into this right here. So the binary for this, or the shell open command for the txt file, turns into a PowerShell Windows hidden backdoor PS1, which is running this thing for us. So it's going to start a process with no new window, and it's going to start a netcat to this attacker, and it's going to give it a shell, and then from there it's going to execute Notepad as usual. And so when it does that, you'll get a reverse shell, and then we can get the next flag. So easy enough, right? Easy and simple enough. So let's do this. So we're gonna do the first one, which is the executable files, using a command like msfvenom to create the file first, and then from there we're gonna create our little back shell, so on and so forth. So I'm gonna open the commands up on my second monitor, and then we're gonna go over here. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to create our msfvenom. So I'm just gonna close this. We can close this terminal, go here, and I think I can actually copy paste this in the interest of time. Copy, let's see if this will allow me to paste. Awesome, so there you go, msfvenom, x64 platform Windows, executable is the PuTTY.exe, and it's going to create, basically the payload is this thing, the shell reverse TCP. The L host we have to change, and it's going to be 10.10.155.95, which is our attack IP. So 10.10.155.95. Let me go back real quick. Ten 155.95. That's the that's the attack IP, and it's on the listen port, and we are executing the binary right here, and it's an exe. Output is going to be PuTTY.x.exe. So that's what we're creating here, and so I'm going to press enter, and that's going to take a few seconds to finish. And then what's going to happen is that will open a PuTTY, it's going to open a reverse interpreter once the user uses it. I did that just so you can see how it works, because they don't actually give us the rest of this command. They just kind of show us how to create a PuTTY.exe, but the way that we want to do it, the super sneaky way, as they mention, is that we're going to go to the machine, the Windows machine right here, and what you want to do, and let's see if they have, yep, the calculator is actually on the desktop right there. So calculator, right click, and then go to properties, and then we're going to go to the properties of the calculator, and the target is what we're changing. So the target is being pointed to this. So first you want to create a script that creates a reverse shell and points it to the attacker IP, and that very basically is going to be I think it's something that I could do probably inside Nano or a text editor or something. So let me see if I could just open up text edit, or not even that really. Let me see, hold on one second. Okay, so simple enough. We're actually going to use the file that it told us to to manipulate later on. So if I go here, I could probably just search for it in Notepad, and there it is. So I'm just going to open up Notepad, and inside Notepad I'm going to write our little script that's right here, or I might even be able to copy paste this in the interest of time. Let's see if I can paste that. There you go, we pasted it. So this is the full script right here. The one thing that I have to change is the attacker IP. It's very important. So 155.95. So 10.10.155.95 right here. 10.10.155.95, and it's on port 4445, which is fine. Everything else is all good. Now here's the key, okay? When you save it, you're not going to click save because you don't want it to be a txt file. You're going to say save as, and then whatever we save. So let's save it onto, I don't know, where do we want to save it so that we'll just know when to get it later. I guess I'll just do users and administrator, and it'll be in the desktop of the administrator. So we'll just do that, which is where the calculator is. let's see, make sure that it, yeah, this is where the calculator is. So we're just gonna call it what, backdoor, that's what they called it. So backdoor.ps1, that's very important. This part right here, the extension is very important because that's how you imply that this is a PowerShell script. So we have that, I'm gonna save it, and it's all good, and there you go, it shows up, and it actually has the PowerShell logo on it as well. So now that's saved, that's all good. So now what we want to do is we want to put this inside this little path right here, this little sneaky little path right here. So the command for that, this is, I love this so much. So it's going to be PowerShell.exe Windows style hidden, and it's going to open up Windows. Oh, I need to put it in Windows System 32. That's where I should have put it. Okay. It needs to be in a sneaky place called Windows System 32. Okay, so instead of it being in the desktop where it is right now, because obviously, duh, it's such a conspicuous place. You don't want it to be here. So you want it to be in a sneaky place. So we're gonna create a new window. Can I do a new one? How do you do a new? I think it's Control N, right, to create a new window. There you go. So Control N in Windows in Microsoft opens up a new window. Command N in Linux, and yada yada opens the other one. So it's going to be inside the local disk C actually, and it's going to be inside, where is it, Windows and System 32 is where we're going to put it. Very, very sneaky little place. System 32 that has all of this stuff in it. So obviously this is like a very sneaky little place. So we're just going to take our little backdoor, boom, move it in here, and now it's in there, and it's no longer on the desktop. So perfect. Now I can go here and type the rest of this command, and it will be super sneaky. So it was PowerShell.exe, Windows style hidden, Windows System 32, and backdoor.ps1, and that's it. And so if I press tab, I need to, well, it usually kind of changes the icon, but we need to make sure that we actually change the icon. See, it's looking for icons for PowerShell because this was the given thing. So I see, so it's in Windows 32 or System 32 calc. So it's actually going to be in local C. We're going to go to Windows System 32. And we're going to find the calculator.exe. So calc.exe is what we're looking for here. And there it is. And so we're going to open that. And there you go. There's the icon. Very good. And so now we have our icon set, but we still have our PowerShell target set. So now we can do OK. And it should be fine. And it hasn't changed anything on the thing right here, on the actual shortcut. And everything is good for us to run our netcat listener. So to see if this actually worked, we're going to create a netcat listener on port 4445, and it's going to listen. So listening on this port, and all we got to do, if we did everything right, as soon as I open this, you see how there was like a little window that popped up and it closed? You see how that little thing was? That's that. It did work, and look at that. We have it. So now I can just do C flags flag 5 exe, and there's my flag. So no shortcuts in real life, and you know they're just talking about the shortcut because that's what we were doing right now, and that's that flag for flag 5 is no shortcuts in real life. So now the next one that we're going to do is the hijacking file associations, this thing right here. So we're going to go back here, we're going to close this, and I'll just close this one. I need to go to the, I think it's the registry editor. Yeah, so I need to open back up the registry editor, and I'm just going to search for it here instead of doing a command line search. So registry editor opens up. Now it's going to be computer. We're going to go to the local machine, and we're going to drop this down, and it's going to be under software. I'm going to drop that down, and it's going to be under classes. Going to drop that down, and what we saw was the .txt first, right? So that's, I just kind of want to show you that as well. So first we found the, actually what am I doing? I can literally just go here and do .txt like that. And so if I do that, and I will just press enter to bring that for me. There you go. So txt file is the data type. And so now we're going to change this to txt file like that. Press that. Now it brings this whole thing for us right here. Okay. And so the big thing right here is that this default, or excuse me, not that default. Whoa, what did I just do? Oh, ad block has updated. Fantastic. So this is the specific registry for the txt file. So what we need to do is we need to now go to this part where it's shell open command. You go here, and this is the actual command that opens it, and we're changing this command right here, right? So what we're gonna do, simply enough, is we're going to create a new script again. And that script in this particular case is going to do the same thing. It's going to open up a netcat, command line, so on and so forth, in a hidden window, and then it's going to execute Notepad, right? It's going to actually open up Notepad. So before changing that, I'm going to go here again, and I'm going to open up Notepad, and I'm going to use Notepad to write this script right here, which was available on our screen right there. And so now I just need to change this to 10.10.155.95. Whoops. And it's on port 4448 this time. And that's it. So it's going to do that. And we have a system argument in there as well. So now we're going to go here. We're going to save it again. And we're going to save it. Where are we saving this one? We're saving it to Windows. Just Windows in general. So it's going to be local C, and we want all files. It's going to be in the local C. It's going to be inside Windows, and just here, I guess this is where we're saving it. So inside Windows, we're going to save it as backdoor2.ps1, just like that, and close it, and it's done. And now I can go and change my registry to point to that. So I can click on this, I think, and modify. There you go. We're going to modify the binary data right here. And it's going to read. It's going to read PowerShell, Windows style, hidden. And it's going to be C, Windows, backdoor2.ps1. And it's very important that we do %1 as the last digits. And so that's it. So this is the only thing that we're changing. PowerShell, Windows style, hidden. And it's going to point to this little PS1 script that we just wrote. And do that. And there you go. And it's been changed. And it is all good. So now, so cancel this guy out. And let's do a netcat listener LVP on port 4448. Do that and go here. Okay, so the recommendation was to create one if we need to. So I'm just going to create a file just like that. We're going to call it create a file, and we're going to save it as a .txt file, and it's going to be on the desktop file .txt. Save. There it is. And so now when I open it, I think it should work. There you go. That little window popped up and disappeared, and now we have our shell. Wonderful. And so now we're looking for flag 6. So flags, flag 6.exe, and there it is. TXT files would never hurt you. That's not true, because we just did it. TXT files would never hurt you. There you go. Got it. Super excited. Very, very exciting. So there's the backdooring files task, and it was done, and I'm excited about it. And I'm noticing now that this is actually a very long specific lab, so I think I might break this into two pieces because it is getting kind of late and I do have to take care of some things. So that, I mean, it's not that you should care about it at all. It's, you know, it's fine. I'm just gonna do 2 recordings, and then I will make sure that you get both of the recordings. So anyways, moving on to the next task. Okay, so abusing services is what we're going to be talking about now. And so there's backdoor services. So as we talked about again in the last Windows privilege escalation, there are things called services. And services are all over Windows, and you can create backdoor services. And this particular one is going to be called THM service. It's going to have a binary path that will essentially create a user administrator with this password, and it's going to start automatically, and then we're going to start that service, right? There must be a space after each equal sign. That's very important. The net user command will be executed when the service is started, resetting the administrator's password to password 123. So my bad, we're not creating a new user, we are updating the user. And how the service has been set to start automatically so that it runs without requiring user interaction. Resetting a user password works well enough, but we can also create a reverse shell with MSF Venom to associate it with the created service. And the service executables are unique since they need to implement a particular protocol. If you want to create an executable that's compatible with Windows, you have to use exe-service in MSF Venom, which is this thing right here, right? So, because we need to create a service executable, right? So you create the service executable, and then you copy the executable to your target system, say in C Windows, and point the service bin path to it, and create THM service. Bin path is going to be set to this, start on auto, and then start THM service, and this should create a connection back to your attacker machine. So this particular example, we can create and start a service named THM service using the following command. It does this. It basically resets the password for us. I don't think we need to do that. I think we are just creating a, I don't think we need to do this part in particular. I think it's just an example that they're doing. And so what we need to actually do is this part right here, is that we're going to create this service or this payload with MSF Venom, and then we are going to use a Python server, and we're going to download it onto the target machine, and then we're going to run it. And this should create a connection back to our original machine, and yeah, we should be fine. So let us see if this actually works. Then there's of course the modifying existing services. So there are existing services that exist and so cs.exe query all of the services, and all of them will show up. And so this was, for example, the one that we created right up here, which was service 1, right? THM service 1, service 2, my bad. So we created service 2, but I guess there is one called service 1 and it stopped, so on and so forth. We should be able to find a service called THM service 3 that's been stopped. And so to query the configuration, you can use the following command. So sc query and then the service, and it'll give you basic information about it. And there are 3 things that we care about: the path of the file, which is this, the start type, which is auto start, and the service start name, which is this thing. It's actually starting a local service. So create a reverse shell from MSF Venom, reconfigure the parameters. We can use the following command. So we reconfigure it to point to the reverse shell, and then once you query the services configuration, we can come back and query it again, and it should be fine, and it should be pointing to the new path, and then we run it. So using the start command, which was, I think it's up here somewhere, I forgot what it was, right here. So we're going to use the start command, and it should just start the service, and it should give us our reverse shell, and we should be able to get the next flag. So these two are fairly straightforward. So the first thing that we got to do is we got to create the MSF Venom payload, and then we're going to do a reverse shell, and we're going to, we're going to do the payload. We're going to create a Python server. We're going to download the payload onto the Windows machine, Then we're going to create a reverse shell, or excuse me, a netcat listener on the attacker machine, and then we're going to run the service, and it should connect to our attacker machine. So first, let's exit this thing and go back and copy this command. So let me go back to my other monitor here, and we're going to go to abusing services, and we're going to copy the MSF Venom command right here. So this thing. So we're going to copy this command, and we're going to bring it here. And the only thing that we are changing is the attacker IP address to match our actual attacker IP address. That is 10.10.155.95. And that should take a couple of seconds to complete. And then we're going to use a Python server and transfer it to our Windows machine. So here we go, Python 3 m http.server, and there's that. And so now I can go here and just go in here, and I should be able to use wget. So if I do cd and take it to the root right here, I guess we're supposed to actually go into Windows. So we're going to go into Windows and transfer it into here. So wget http 10.10, what was it? 155.95 on port 8000. That's what we're serving, and it's called rev service.exe. And I'm going to output it to, I believe it's like that, and I'm going to output it to rev service.exe. Okay, so wget does not work on Windows apparently, but there is something that you can do to download a file from a Python server on PowerShell. It's called invoke web request. And so you would do that, and it is case sensitive, so you need to make sure that's all good, URI, and that's going to be our URL, including the port, as well as the service, the executable name, and then you do out file for the output, and then you essentially give it whatever name you want to give it, and that would be it. And then it did download, and so I have it in my list of files right here, so rev.exe right here. So that's all good. So now we can move on to the next portion of this, which is basically creating the THM service binary path, and then and I think that's also supposed to be done in PowerShell. I don't know if it's supposed to be done in PowerShell or if it's in command prompt. So I'm going to try it in command prompt first, and if it works, then great. If not, we're going to do it in PowerShell. Okay, so we were able to obviously download our executable. So now we're going to, and it worked inside command prompt, by the way. So CMD command prompt. So it's the sc.exe, create the service, and make sure that you point it to the correct path. There's a space here, remember that. And there's also a space after this one. So we created it, and creation was successful. Now before I start it, I need to go back to my attack box, and I can just stop my server right here and do a netcat on port 4448 and start listening here. And now I'm going to start the service, and if all goes according to plan, we did get a shell. Look at us, we're doing big things out here. So then we just run the command, so flags, and this is flag number 7.exe, and there it is. Suspicious services is the flag. So that is perfect. That worked exactly how we wanted it to. So now we can modify an existing service, and we still need a reverse shell executable, a payload for it. So the command for this one is very similar to the other one. It's essentially actually the same one, the same command. So I'm just gonna create a new payload using that same exact command, and we just gotta change it to the attack box IP address. 10.10.155.95, and it's gonna be on port 5558. And there you go, and that should be done. So while that's finishing, we're going to go and modify the existing service. So there's something called THM service 3 that we're supposed to find in here. So I'm going to find that service, and it's going to be sc.exe qc, and then we're looking for THM service 3. And there's that. So it says right here, and I mean, I guess I can't tell if it's stopped or not. It doesn't say if it's stopped or not, but it does say where it exists, and that is an auto start, so on and so forth. So we have the basic information that it said we would have in our instructions. So the next thing that we need to do is we need to modify this path, right? So that it runs the path of our executable. So first and foremost, I need to make sure that this is done, and it is done. So we're gonna go Python 3 m http.server and start our server again, which is this command right here. And so we have our server. And so now I can go back to PowerShell and I can download it. And I guess we want to download it to what path? Same path, so in the same Windows path, which makes it kind of easy. So I just do, oops, not dir. There you go, invoke web request. And I need to save it as, let me just zoom in here so you can see what's happening. I'm going to save it as service 2. And then I'm going to go here and actually download service 2. Because that's what we created. And so just press enter on this and it should have downloaded. So now if I just do dir, it should show up right here, and it certainly does. So now we have our new executable payload. And so what we're going to do is we're going to configure this stopped service right here and then start it, and it should be fine, right? So it's going to be, we can use the following command. So sc.exe configure, and it's going to change THM service 3. The bin path is going to have a space after it, don't forget that. And it's going to point to Windows rev service 2.exe, and start is going to be auto, and the object is going to be the local system. And just make sure that you spell everything correctly and you have those spaces right after the equal sign. So this is the configuration, and so there is that. Configuration is complete. So now if I do, if I check on it one more time to see where it's pointing to, it should be pointing to our new path, right, that we just declared to it, and it does. Perfect. So now I just need to start the service, right? So that's basically all I need to do. But before I do that, I have to go over here and start a netcat listener, and it's going to be nc lvp 5558. Yep, there you go. And so now we're here, and so if everything goes according to plan, we should have a shell on the other side as soon as we press start. And look at that. Awesome. Okay, so now we just need to run the, what is it, flag 8? I think it's flag 8, right? Yeah, flag 8. So c flags flag 8.exe, run that mofo, and there it is. Very lovely. I love it when these things actually work. Very, very lovely. So there we go. We got it. This was awesome. Modifying existing services worked like a charm. And I feel like I just want to keep running right now because I'm making good progress. We're making good time on these things, and it doesn't seem to be very many more left. So I might just keep going, and I'm just going to turn this into one large upload, as always. And then we'll just make sure that we have timestamps for you. So yeah, there you go. All right, so task scheduler. We can abuse scheduled tasks, and you can create a scheduled task using this command. And there's a full reference on this, so obviously you can go to Windows Task Scheduler and learn a whole lot about it. And it's a very legitimate service, but it can also be used for hacking. So we don't want to wait too long for this room, is what it says. So we're gonna create a task that runs a reverse shell every single minute. In a real world scenario, you don't want it to be that often, but we don't want to wait for this room to be, forever. So basically this is going to be the task that you're going to create right here. So it's going to say schedule task, create service minute month 1, I guess. This is the name, and this is what it's going to execute for us, and it's going to do it on port 4449 and /RU. And I think that's pretty much it. This is just a notification from the system. Be sure to use the task backdoor as the name of your task, otherwise you won't get the flag, so that's very important. And the previous command will create a task backdoor task, execute a reverse shell, and the SC and MO options indicate that the task should run every minute. The RU option indicates that the task will run with system privileges. Oh no, so you know what? I do have to actually include this. So it says run under system. So I need to make sure that I run that and include the system. And so to check if it was created, we can run the following command and to see if it's there, and it says it is there and it's ready. And so making the task invisible is what is a big deal that we need to do. And the whole idea is everything is inside the registry editor. And so if we go inside the registry editor, we can run it with the command prompt, or we could just open it using the search bar. Everything is going to be stored in this path for scheduled tasks, and you'll find a registry key for every task under which the value name SD contains the security descriptor, and you can erase the value if you hold system privileges. So to hide our task, let's delete the SD value for the backdoor that we created before. We will run exec and this to open with system privileges. Okay, so we have to do it like this to open exec with system privileges. And so we will do it as such, and it will open like this, and then we're going to go to this path, and we're going to find the task, and we're going to delete this security descriptor, and it should be all good. And so if we try to query the service again, the system will tell us that there is no such service because we deleted the security descriptor, and now we can run a reverse shell. So this one is fairly straightforward. So first and foremost, we need to create inside this place. We gotta create the task. So here we go. Unfortunately, I can't copy paste, so I'm gonna type this whole thing out for you real quick. Okay, so there we go. We created the task, and so now we can query it just to see if it actually exists and make sure that we're all good here. And so there you go. It's done and ready to go. And so now I'm going to check the registry for this thing. So we got to run in the command prompt. So we got to run it like so: tools, ps tools, ps exec 64.exe si reg edit. There you go. And that should open beautifully. It opens right down here. Excellent. And so I'm trying to go to, where am I going? I'm going to local machine, and I'm gonna go change this part to actually fit the path that we want to go to. THM backdoor, right? Nope. Yeah, there it is. THM task backdoor. Voila. So THM task backdoor, we're just gonna delete this little thing, and that's fine. Why? Why were you unable to delete it? Did it not open as, I think because it was already open. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to run this one more time, and it should open up with registry permissions, hopefully. And let's try to find that one more time. Okay, great. So because it was open before, it didn't work, so I had to close registry editor, and then I ran the command inside the command prompt, and it opened it as the system privileges, and I was able to finally delete the specific SD, the security descriptor for our task backdoor. So now if we go back over here and we try to find it using that query command, it should no longer show up, right? So where is it? There we go. The system cannot find the file specified. So it no longer exists. It is now gone. So now I can go to, since I have it set to run on a timer, I'm just going to go here and I'm going to create my netcat listener. And within a minute, we should have a shell. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. It certainly worked. So C flags, flag 9, baby. And there it is, just a matter of time because it's a scheduled task. Get it? Okay, so there you go. We got that. And that's good. And so now we are going to move on. Okay, so unfortunately, guys, I cannot continue the recording tonight. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop it here. And this is going to be part 1 of Windows persistence. And then we're going to just do part 2 in a separate video. And I'm going to make sure that I get that done as the very next recording. And so you will definitely have access to that. And just make sure that you like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so that you get notified when part 2 comes out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's your boy Hank Hackerson at Hank Hacks Hackers. I hope you learned a lot from this one. And I'm just gonna pick up where we left off. So no long goodbyes in this one because I'm gonna see you in part 2 of this particular video. All right, see you soon.